becoming something other than what society had intended? What if a child aspired to something greater?
My son was in the bus. He saw what Clark did.
They're the answer to Are We Alone in the Universe?
When Man of Steel hit theaters in 2013, it marked a new beginning for one of the most iconic superheroes in cinematic history. Directed by Zack Snyder and produced by Christopher Nolan, the film set out to reimagine Superman for a modern generation. Unlike the optimistic, almost mythic tone of the earlier Superman films, this new version aimed to explore the deeper human side of Clark Kent, blending epic spectacle with emotional realism. From its first frame, Man of Steel presented a darker, more grounded take on the legend of the last son of Krypton, crafting a story that mixed science fiction world-building with profound questions about destiny, identity, and the meaning of hope. The story begins on Krypton, a planet on the brink of destruction. In a visually stunning sequence, we witness Jor-El, played by Russell Crowe, making the desperate decision to send his infant son, Kal-El, to Earth as their world collapses around them. The imagery of Krypton's fall immediately sets the tone. This is not a fairy tale origin story, but a grand tragedy that sets the foundation for everything that follows. As Kal-El's spacecraft escapes the chaos, we see a civilization destroyed by its arrogance and pride, and a father's final act of love that will shape the fate of another world. From there, the film shifts to a grown Clark Kent, played by Henry Cavill, wandering across remote corners of the Earth in search of purpose. Snyder presents Clark as a man haunted by questions about who he is and where he comes from. Through fragmented memories and flashbacks, we see the young Clark struggling to control his powers, guided by the wisdom and compassion of his adoptive parents. Jonathan and Martha Kent, portrayed with heartfelt sincerity by Kevin Costner and Diane Lane. Their teachings become the moral compass that defines him, even as the world around him seems uncertain of how to accept someone so extraordinary. Henry Cavill's performance gives the character a quiet strength. He doesn't play Superman as a perfect symbol, but as someone burdened by the weight of his own potential. His Clark is introspective, humble, and searching, a man who wants to do good, but fears what the world might think if it sees his true self. This portrayal allowed audiences to connect with Superman in a way that felt deeply human. The film asks what it would truly mean for a godlike being to walk among humans, not as a savior from the start, but as a lost soul yearning for belonging. The film's world feels vast and cinematic, from the icy Arctic landscapes to the bustling streets of Metropolis. Snyder and cinematographer Amir Mokri craft a visual language that feels both mythic and modern. Every frame emphasizes scale. Skyscrapers stretch toward the heavens, clouds swirl above alien ships, and the camera lingers on faces filled with awe and fear. The design of Superman's suit, textured and metallic, replaces the classic bright tones with something more regal and alien, grounding the fantasy in a sense of realism that reflects the film's overall tone. When General Zod, played by Michael Shannon, arrives on Earth, the story escalates into a high-stakes conflict that pushes both the planet and Superman to their limits. Zod's motivation isn't simple villainy. He's driven by a sense of duty to preserve Krypton's legacy, even if it means destroying humanity. Shannon's intense, commanding presence makes Zod both terrifying and tragic. His battle with Superman becomes more than a physical clash. It's a philosophical war between two survivors of a lost world. One chooses to embrace Earth and humanity, while the other seeks to rebuild Krypton at any cost. Amy Adams brings warmth and determination to Lois Lane, portraying her not just as a reporter, but as a fearless investigator who becomes one of the first to uncover Clark's true nature. Her chemistry with Cavill gives the story emotional grounding amid the spectacle. Lois isn't a damsel in distress, but a key part of the narrative she sees in Superman, not a weapon or a savior, but a man trying to find his place in the world. This dynamic becomes one of the emotional anchors of the film. The legacy of Man of Steel continues to shape discussions about superhero cinema even years later. It dared to ask difficult questions. What if Superman were real? How would humanity respond to someone so powerful? Could we trust him, or would we fear him? These questions would form the backbone of the films that followed, but Man of Steel remains the emotional and philosophical cornerstone of that universe. It represents the birth of a modern myth, one that acknowledges the complexity of being both alien and human, both savior and son. As the credits rolled in 2013, audiences walked away with a sense that they had witnessed the rebirth of an icon. This was not just the story of a man who could fly, but of a man learning why he should. Man of Steel gave Superman a new face, a new heart, and a new sense of purpose for a new generation. It reintroduced him not as a symbol of unattainable perfection, but as a reflection of humanity's greatest potential, the ability to choose hope even in the face of despair. In the end, Man of Steel is a story about faith, not religious faith, but faith in ourselves, in the possibility of good, and in the belief that even the most powerful among us can be defined by compassion. It's about a hero who learns that his strength means nothing without love, and that true greatness lies not in power, but in the will to use it for others. That timeless message, wrapped in breathtaking visuals and emotional storytelling, is what makes Man of Steel more than just a superhero movie. It's a story of rebirth, identity, and the eternal power of hope, the kind of story that reminds us why we look up to the skies and still believe a man can fly. The score by Hans Zimmer deserves special mention for its sweeping emotional power. Instead of echoing the classic Superman theme, Zimmer creates something entirely new, a deep, resonant sound that captures both the loneliness and majesty of the character. The now iconic track flight builds slowly before erupting into a triumphant crescendo, mirroring Clark's first true moment of liberation as he takes to the skies. The music embodies the soul of the film, not nostalgia, but rebirth. Man of Steel also stands out for its thematic depth. It explores what it means to be human through the lens of an alien trying to understand humanity. The story reflects our own fears and hopes, the fear of the unknown, the longing for acceptance, and the idea that strength is not about dominance, but about restraint and compassion. Jonathan Kent's death, one of the most emotional moments in the film, underscores this message. His sacrifice teaches Clark that sometimes doing the right thing means waiting for the right time, even when it breaks your heart. The action sequences are among the most ambitious ever filmed for a superhero movie. The fight between Superman and Zod's forces in Smallville, and later the devastating battle across Metropolis, showcase breathtaking visual effects and choreography. Buildings crumble, shockwaves ripple through streets, and the sheer power of Kryptonians is felt in every punch and collision. Some critics debated the level of destruction shown, but Snyder's approach was deliberate. He wanted the audience to feel the full weight of what it means when gods fight among mortals. The climactic battle between Superman and Zod is both thrilling and emotionally charged. As they soar through the skies, smashing through skyscrapers and grappling in midair, it becomes clear that this isn't just a fight for survival, but for identity. The moment when Superman is forced to make the impossible choice to take Zod's life to save innocent people defines the film's emotional core. It's the moment he truly becomes the protector of humanity, not because he's invincible, but because he's willing to bear the pain of moral consequence. Man of Steel's ending reflects both hope and uncertainty. Clark finds his place in the world, taking a job at the Daily Planet and beginning his double life as both journalist and hero. Yet, the world he inhabits remains wary of him, setting the stage for the moral and ideological conflicts explored in later films. The message is clear: Superman's journey is not about perfection, but growth. He is a symbol of what humanity can aspire to be when guided by courage and compassion. The film sparked passionate discussions among audiences and critics alike. Some praised its bold storytelling and emotional gravity, while others debated its darker tone and intense realism. But regardless of differing opinions, few could deny that Man of Steel redefined what a Superman movie could be. It took the familiar myth and reshaped it into something mythic yet relatable, a story that felt both ancient and freshly relevant in a world grappling with questions of power, morality, and faith. Henry Cavill's portrayal quickly became iconic, establishing him as one of the most beloved actors to wear the cape. His Superman embodies strength tempered by empathy, and his quiet dignity resonated deeply with fans who saw in him a reflection of modern heroism. Not a flawless savior, but a man who struggles and learns like anyone else. His performance, paired with Snyder's vision, laid the foundation for the entire DC extended universe that would follow. In many ways, Man of Steel is less about Superman's powers and more about his choices. It's about how a person decides what kind of being they want to be in a world that fears what it doesn't understand. The film's narrative reminds viewers that heroism isn't defined by invincibility, but by sacrifice and moral conviction. Superman's journey from isolation to purpose mirrors the universal search for meaning that lies within everyone. Zack Snyder's direction balances spectacle with symbolism. Every visual choice, from the sweeping shots of Kansas fields to the cosmic imagery of Krypton, reinforces the idea of Superman as a bridge between two worlds. The film is filled with subtle religious and mythological undertones, presenting Superman not as a god above mankind, but as a figure who chooses to walk among them. This grounded approach gives the story emotional weight, elevating it beyond the standard superhero narrative.